Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I want to break down some of the important things that General Manager Adam Peters and Assistant General Manager Lance Newmark had to say about this upcoming 2025 NFL Draft in their press conference that they had. Well, for me, it's today, but by the time y'all get this, it will be yesterday. But man, they said a lot while also trying to keep their cards close to their chest. We're going to try to dive into everything they said to kind of peel back and see what we can take away from the things that they said. I'm really excited. Also, hey man, Terry McLaurin was at Washington OTAs. I mean, a lot of guys were there. Jayden Daniels, and I have a funny clip of Jayden Daniels running to the OTAs. We have guys like Deebo Samuel, you know, a lot of our sophomore guys that were rookies last year. But the Terry McLaurin one is significant because he's up for a new contract. You know, a lot of wide receivers wouldn't be there. I want to talk about that real quick. But again, we're mostly here for the things that Adam Peters and Lance Newmark had to say about this upcoming draft. We have like their draft strategy. They're talking about potentially trading up and down in the draft. They're open to everything. We're talking about edge rusher. We're talking about potentially trading with the Eagles again. We're talking about traits that they're looking for, everything. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Make sure you pull up. You already see it scheduled on the channel, but I will be live streaming the entire round 1 draft. I'll be with the Commanders Kings for day 2, rounds 2 and 3, and then I'll be back on my channel for round 4 through 7, and we'll see how far we make it in day 3, but I will be live streaming at some point in day 3, and of course we'll have a draft review, and also want to have a draft preview as well. And without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so I want to go ahead and get this OTAs thing out the way because this is the first practice for the 2025 Washington Commanders. Of course, this is right before the draft, so of course our rookie class isn't here. We don't have a rookie class, but all of the veterans, well, at least a lot of them that we saw. I mean, you see Frankie Louvu, you see Tress Way, you see Jayden Daniels, you see Deebo Samuel, you see a lot of the guys, Jeremy Reeves. There's pictures, there's a couple of clips out there, but I feel like most notable is Terry McLaurin because a lot of wide receivers, you know, typically they're up for their new extension. A lot of those guys, I mean, let alone holding out. I mean, how about like holding out and not even showing up to mandatory practices like mandatory minicamp and training camp, let alone the first day of OTAs before we even go into the draft? Like, this is the most voluntary thing as voluntary gets right here. And Terry McLaurin still showed up to that. So I really feel like we need to just take some time and applaud him for that because he literally does not have to be there at all. And then also moving on, Jayden Daniels was, of course, there. And there was this funny clip that went semi-viral about him being excited about returning to OTAs. You can see it right here. Let's get it, man. I'm just happy to see Jayden Daniels moving, man. We've seen him dancing. We've seen him standing still, talking and stuff like that. It's interesting to see him running. Even though it doesn't actually have much to do with football, it's still just interesting to see him doing something else different than what we've seen since we lost to the Eagles in that NFC Championship game. But either way, now it's time to dive into Adam Peters and Lance Newmark and their press conference. First of all, they started off their press conference. Of course, like now, you know, Adam Peters, this is my assistant general manager, Lance Newmark next to me. They expressed their excitement for this week, and also they talked about how excited they are about having players back in the buildings for the team off-season programs like we just discussed. But secondly, and I feel like this is the most important thing we need to get out the way early, is that, man, shouts out to Adam Peters, man. Really shouts out to him for shouting out everybody before he even started the actual press conference. Before he even fielded questions, he wanted to make sure he shouted out everybody that had anything to do with this draft process. So of course he shouted out a lot of the scouts and of course a lot of the top guys in the front office. And he wasn't even just going like, okay, shouts out to this guy and keeping it pushing. He also like said things that they've done in the past, how many years they've been in the business, some of the awards that they've won and things like that. Like, he was very personal and very specific with each shout out. And then on top of that, he even went on to thank the chefs, the security, anybody that had any sort of effect on this draft process. He made sure that he directly shouted those guys out, even if they don't directly scout or draft for us, but at least they play large roles in their abilities for them to do the drafting and the scouting. He shouted all of those guys out as well, man. And that's just really cool because he does not have to do that at all. And we have that guy leading our team. I mean, thinking about it, you know, if this were like his first year, like last year, if he did this, then you're like, okay, maybe he's just trying to win people over. Maybe this isn't who he actually is. This is just his first year. He's just trying to, you know, show everybody, hey, I'm the cool GM that thanks everybody. But he's doing this in the second year after taking the team from 4 wins to 14. He literally does not have to do this at all. This clearly shows that this is just who he is as a person. It's beautiful, man. I mean, it doesn't necessarily directly lead to more wins, but maybe it does, you know, maybe in the long run with the environment that he's building, the culture that he's building with the way that he does things, including these shout outs right here, is leading to our team believing in ourselves more, everybody believing in each other, loving being around each other. And that's what led to us getting to the NFC Championship and potentially winning Super Bowl soon. Because again, I'm gonna keep saying it, we were arguably the least talented team top to bottom in the entire playoffs from the AFC side and the NFC side. That was Jayden Daniels and just pure will to, determination, and effort. And even coach, you can also give a lot of the credit to the coaches, but we didn't have a lot of like talent on paper to make it as far as we did. And so effort and culture had a lot to do with that. And I love the fact that it starts all the way from the top with even Josh Harris at the ownership, Magic Johnson and those guys, but especially Adam Peters. And then also, before we even got to the press conference, shouts out to Nikki Javala, because she tweeted things that will probably be said in the Commanders pre-draft presser. And again, she said this before the presser even happened. She said, quote, "We're open to anything." How about another quote? "We're going to do what's best for the team." How about we're going to stick to our board? How about we're going to rely on our scouts? Another one, we're looking for the Commanders' right guys type of guys, commander tag guys. Also, it's very fluid. That's another quote. "We're not going to reveal our entire draft process." Or how about we'll do our due diligence? I swear Adam Peters probably ended up saying all of these, which is funny. Now let's dive into what he actually said, what matters. Well, also, Adam Peters confirmed that there is a new war draft room. And they're working on it right now. There was a clip uploaded to the Commanders channel through the Commanders log and everything like that, where it's like a guy actually like breaking down and you see the guys constructing it. You're just seeing plain white walls, but they're working on a new draft room. And man, I mean, call me a draft nerd, football nerd, whatever, but I am really excited about this new draft room. Apparently it's being built right now and it should be ready for next year's NFL draft, not this one. So we will not see it for 2025, but by this time next year, hopefully we would have seen at least some sort of a preview of it. I'm really excited, man. Y'all know, so definitely go check out that clip on the Commanders log. I think it's well worth it. They're just kind of walking around and showing. It's like a quick little 27 seconds, 30-second thing where it's just like, this is where it's basically going to be. I can't wait to see what it turns into, because I would argue that we have one of the blandest, you know, least inspiring war draft rooms right now out of the entire NFL. I can't wait for us to innovate that and get one of the best ones, because I wouldn't be surprised if we surpass a lot of people and end up with one of the best ones. Just like once we finally get our new stadium, I feel like it's going to be one of the best ones in the entire NFL. I just feel like it's all about time. It's not if, it's more of when. I'm really excited. Now let's dive into the draft trade possibilities part of the press conference. I'm not going in chronological order of what he said throughout the press conference. I just want to, I have my own order, and I felt like we should talk about the draft trade possibilities, because I feel like that's pretty interesting. So Adam Peters said that his board is set. The team's board is basically set just overall. Of course, you have like a horizontal board, you have a vertical board, all of that type of stuff. And obviously it can be adjusted from just based on how things unfold throughout the draft. I mean, we picked 29th overall, so you have to be ready to adapt and adjust. But really right now they're making calls over these next couple of days, so they're not having to do too many calls real time. Of course, you're going to have to make calls during the draft, but they're doing a whole bunch of pre-calls right now to kind of set the board up of like, okay, gauging interest here as far as maybe trade ups, maybe trade backs, maybe players, maybe certain picks or whatever they're looking for. They're fielding those calls now to kind of check the temperature, get a feel of what's going on right now, trying to read the room. So by the time we get to the draft, we're not just fumbling it over ourselves, panicking with no prior information going into the draft. I love that level of preparation right there. Also, Adam Peters said that the team is open to anything, even potentially moving up in the draft. which is really interesting. And I believe that it would just have to be for the right player. And then also shouts out to Adam Peters, because when talking about trading back or trading up, if there's an opportunity to move back, he said they'll look into it. I mean, we only have 5 picks, so it makes sense. But also, he mentioned that they could basically go any direction in the first round. Though after drafting Jayden Daniels last year, you can obviously take quarterback off of the table, of course. And yes, Peters is open to trading the pick. But then he joked about that, if Abdul Carter somehow drops to 27, then they'll trade up there. So it sounds like he's not being sarcastic, but it's like, yeah, we'll trade up. But it would have to be a ridiculous player that has no reason of being even available in a trade up range, basically. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm saying we'll trade up, but just know we're more than likely not going to do it, because it would pretty much have to take the impossible to be possible for us to trade up. The impossible would have to take place, a guy like Abdul Carter making it to 27, for us to consider trading up in this draft. So go ahead and throw it out of your head that we're trading up at least in the first round. Maybe we trade up second or fourth round or something like that if a certain player falls that they really like, but I highly doubt it. Don't expect us to trade up at all. If anything, we're far more likely to trade back. And then also, Peter said that he doesn't personally believe in being scared of trading picks with the team in the division. If the deal is good for the team, they'll consider it on a case-by-case scenario. So that's interesting, because I know a lot of people, especially after the trades that we did with the Eagles last year, and how they ended up with Cooper DeJean, and how that ended up biting us in the NFC Championship game, where he ended up having a really good game, and he had a really good season for the Eagles just in general. And so I know a lot of Commanders fans are like, no, we're not trading with the Eagles now, no matter what the situation is, no matter how much we can gain from it. A lot of people are just standing firm. They don't want to trade with the Eagles. But Adam Peters is like, hey, man, I'm still open to it. Yeah, we got burned slightly last year, but we also really like the players that we have. And I agree with the thought that, hey, as long as we love what we get, it doesn't matter what the other team gets. You know what I'm saying? We feel like we did a great job. That's all that matters. Everything is perceived value. There's no absolutes and no definitive answers here as to who did what right or things like that. Now, like, some are more obvious, but at the end of the day, man, if you love what you got, forget what the Eagles have. I mean, that's just anybody. The Giants, that's potentially like a trade back slot for us. Maybe they would want to trade up for maybe like a Jackson Dart or a Jalen Milroe to get that 5th-year option. We trade back into their early 2nd-round pick, and maybe like a guy like Donovan Ezra-Rocco or Travion Henderson is still there. I can see that. I don't really see us trading with the Cowboys because we're just so far away. Like, the Eagles are only a couple of picks behind us, just in the first round, and the Giants are only a couple of picks behind that in the early 2nd round or the early next round of other rounds in the draft. Whereas the Cowboys are just no man's land, middle of the draft. We're towards the end. The Giants are towards the beginning. So the Cowboys are like the least tradable team, it seems like, in the division. But Eagles, Giants, as long as it's a favorable situation for us, I trust Adam Peters. I'm not one of those fans that's just like, don't trade with the Eagles under any circumstance. I'm not that. Now, I want you to be weary of who the Eagles may be wanting to trade with you to get, you know what I'm saying? Be mindful of that, but take that into account, but don't just completely throw the idea out the window. And then also shouts out to JP Finley, because it brings up a good point. He said Adam Peters already proved this last year. Part of the Commanders' philosophy, build to win, not to be scared. And I like that, man. Forget what the Eagles got going on. If we love what we got going on our end, ignore them. We don't care. That doesn't really have much to do with this, because if we do our side right, we can beat them regardless anyway. Now, moving on to the next section, he also discussed some draft strategy things. He said that the Commanders' pre-draft roster shows needs, but each position also has enough pieces to avoid panic. And that's what I've been saying since free agency and since we've been signing all of those guys, is that, we have areas that we can upgrade and grow and we can improve, but we have no glaring holes on this team. You could argue we have some weaknesses, but we have no holes. We have playable guys at every single position on this entire roster, top to bottom. I would argue maybe kicker is like our very weakest position, the only arguable hole that we have right now. I feel like we have a pass rush hole, but we don't necessarily have an edge rusher hole. I feel like we have a home run hitting running back hole, but we don't have a running back hole. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're solid at edge rusher. We're solid at running back. We're solid at receiver. But there are places like those, specific traits that we're looking for in the draft, that we could definitely improve on. I agree. So he's saying that quote, we put ourselves in a position to not force anything, and unquote. And I completely agree with that. I love that philosophy. Handle what you need to handle in free agency to make sure you have no holes that'll cause you to be desperate throughout the draft, where you're reaching on needs rather than just taking the best player that's available. We have the type of roster now where we can just take the best player available, no matter the position. If Colson Loveland, for some ridiculous reason, falls to us at 29, take him. That would be best player available more than likely. And then now you have one of the best tight ends in the NFL out of absolutely nowhere, and that wasn't what you were expecting to get out of this draft. So I love the fact that they were very purposeful. They were very deliberate with their strategy in free agency. You know, they made sure, hey, we're all right everywhere on the team. At the very least, at worst, we're all right. You know, it may not necessarily be great, not even necessarily good, but we're all right. And then we can go into this draft and do what we got to do to become great at any particular position, except for quarterback, because you can't get much better than a top 5 quarterback going into the second year. Also, Adam Peters said that the best available type of guy is really the guys who fit the team the best and not reaching to talk themselves into a position that might be a need. Again, they're prioritizing fit. They're prioritizing talent, not a position that they feel like is one of the bigger weaknesses on the team. They'll just figure that one out. And shouts out to Real Robinson, because I agree. Basically, anything, everything, and everyone is on the table for us this upcoming draft. It's very hard to do a predictive mock draft right now, because who knows? First of all, we picked 29th, so many things can happen before we even get the chance to pick. And then even beyond that, who knows what the Commanders are looking at? Again, we don't have any glaring holes on our roster position-wise, maybe traits-wise, but not position-wise. We can go any direction with that 29th pick. I mean, we can end up just trading back. Who knows? Also, Adam Peters talked about projecting the first round. He said, quote, there is very little certainty after the first 10 picks or so, unquote. I thought that was interesting, first of all, because it sounds like he knows who the top 10 picks will be. And right now, it's kind of hard for me to guess. I got you to like the first 4, 5, maybe 7, but the first 10 picks, it sounds like he's like, okay, these guys going top 10, so he knows something behind the scenes just from talking to other teams, general managers and head coaches, I guess. And then after that, even as plugged in as Adam Peters is, even he doesn't really know what's going to happen as we start to get to the teams of this draft. Nobody knows. Everywhere you look, every expert, every draft analyst, anybody that you ask, any general manager, scout, coach, everybody that I've seen agrees basically the guy that you can get at 15 is pretty much the same as that guy you can get in the 50s. And so this is just a really weird draft scenario to where it's really up in the air. You would just throw a bunch of names in the air and let them fall, and that could very well end up being what the draft ends up playing out as. Nobody absolutely knows what's going on. And again, even as plugged in as much of a genius as Adam Peters is, the guy that took us from 4 wins to 14 in one off season, even he doesn't know what's basically going to happen after pick 10. So how would anybody know what the Commanders are going to do at 29? Even he doesn't exactly know. We're going to have to watch how it plays out. We'll see. Now, 29th overall wise, I really want to get a really good edge rusher. And speaking of edge rusher, he addressed that as well. Adam Peters said that this is a deep edge rusher draft, and there's something for everyone all along this draft. He also confirmed that the general view with this defensive end class is that it runs deep with options for any scheme and plan. So no matter what you want in an edge rusher, this draft has that guy. It's just whether how soon you can get him, how late you can get him, or whatever. Now, I do want to go back to that quote about this being a deep edge draft, because this is one of those scenarios where it's like he said a lot of something, but really nothing when you think about it, because that's so ambiguous. If you want to prove your case that he's saying that, you know, the edge rusher class is deep, so we're very likely to get the guy we really want at 29, you can make that argument off of that quote. Or if you're on the other side, nah, forget that. With this edge rusher class is so deep, we could just get a guy in like the 2nd or 4th round, and that guy could come in and contribute immediately. You can make that argument off of that quote as well. That Adam Peters did a fantastic job of saying a lot, but really giving you nothing. Like, you know, holding his cards close to his chest. Yes, this is a deep edge rusher class, but what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you think the guy that you really ultimately want, that you hope you could get, will fall to you at 29? Or does that mean that Edge rusher class is so deep, we'll just get a guy in the second or the fourth round. We're not worried. We're not going to take that at 29. We'll take a position that's less deep at 29 and worry about edge rusher later. So who knows, man? It's really interesting. Now, also draft preferences and traits. He addressed this. 7 of Washington's 9 draft picks last season were college team captains. After a year plus of culture building, is there more wiggle room with non-captains? Potentially, like, and that's a question that basically Ben Standig asks, where it's like, okay, you drafted a bunch of captains last year, and then you would normally assume, okay, maybe that they just have a type. Maybe they're just always going to draft captains. But now that you've built this great culture with all of those captains that you brought in via free agency, via trade, and especially through the draft, do you feel like now with the culture already fully built and realized, and everybody believes in it, and there's just a certain standard here, now do you feel like based off of that, now this next draft, you don't have to draft captains because you already have so many ingratiated into the building, and like the whole team top to bottom, from ownership, front office, coaching staff, players, we just have a bunch of leaders, a whole bunch of great guys, a 110% effort type of people. Maybe you don't always have to prioritize getting that now that you've set a certain precedent. You have a certain blueprint of how you do things. We'll see. And Adam Peters even said, quote, "I don't think we're going to waver from the types of people we want to bring in the building," unquote. But at the same time, even on top of the fact that he said we want to bring in good people, he also said on drafting players with character concerns, he said that he really trusts the scouts to go to these schools and get to know everything. He also said that you have to be careful with what you hear, because he drafted someone from the 49ers that had concerns, and it turned out to be that not only was he a great player, he was also one of the best teammates on the entire team. Again, he brought up the fact that now he didn't say exactly which player this was, but he brought up the fact that with his experience in San Francisco, they took a risk on a guy with some character concerns, and then he ended up not having those at all by the time he got there. So there, even when you're talking to guys like James Pierce or Mike Green or whatever, you got to trust that they're going to do their own research and get their own idea of whether this guy truly does actually have character concerns. Now, if he does, I highly doubt they'll take him. But just because everybody else is saying, or the general consensus, the experts, the guys on the internet are saying that this guy has character concerns, if Adam Peters and this commander staff feel like that guy doesn't, they're going to take him. And now, again, I honestly believe that a lot of these character concerns that are being put out there by teams, I think like literally teams are doing it so that certain players that they want will fall to them. I'm like dead serious, because a lot of these character concerns outside of like definitive concrete evidence from guys like maybe Mike Green or Malachi Moore, where there are like certain events that you can recall, okay, this is why we feel like he has character concerns. A lot of these other ones are just random, vague character concerns just thrown out there with like no real accounts of what happened and when. Like, we just get general statements of this guy's character concerns from a lot of different sources, but they never say what the character concerns are and where they got that from. And Adam Peters even addressed it in his press conference. He said, be careful trusting these character concerns rumors going around, because teams may put that out there on purpose. I truly believe that. Adam Peters believes that. I completely agree. And then also shouts out to Mark Tyler, because he brings up a good point. He said, watch Adam Peters completely shock the world and draft James Pierce if he's there at 29. Maybe the scouts did their homework and didn't find any red flags. It would be a shock to me, but I definitely would trust that they did their homework and think that he'd be a good fit if they took him. I agree. Also, moving on from the press conference, that's pretty much out the way. Also, just love to hear that Johnny Newton, Ben Sinnott, and Jordan McGee are at the facilities and working extra hard, getting there early and trying to have way better second seasons. Because, I feel like their rookie seasons were relatively disappointing compared to what I expected of those guys when we drafted them. Johnny Newton especially, because he was out there, he just didn't play as well as I thought. He flashed at times, but he didn't look like the guy that I hoped he'd be. Then when I thought that he was best player available when we took him, even though defensive tackle wasn't necessarily our biggest need at the time. Then Ben Sinnott, I'm very high on him. I feel like, maybe you can blame the coaching staff for not getting them as involved, but I was expecting him to contribute way more, especially in the receiving game, than he did. But he's an elite blocking tight end, so I can't complain too much, but I would love for him to, be a receiving option and a target for Jayden Daniels more than he was last year. And Jordan McGee, just injuries. You know what I'm saying? The talent was there. You saw the flashes throughout the season when he was healthy. He's just got to stay healthy. But again, I love to hear that these guys that had relatively disappointing rookie seasons are in there doing whatever it takes to put in the extra work, the tiring hours to have better second seasons and better career trajectories. I love that. And then also, before we get up out of here, this is kind of separate from the press conference, but as I was like working on this video, I noticed that Todd McShay, there's this video going around that inside league circles right now, a lot of NFL teams, forget what the experts and draft analysts are saying, we're talking about the actual teams that draft these guys. They get paid millions of dollars to do this type of stuff. These guys among NFL circles, again, now granted, Todd McShay could be lying. Maybe these NFL teams are telling Todd McShay that they're giving him misinformation on purpose so he can get that out there. Who knows? There could be some miscommunication along the way. But Todd McShay is saying that inside NFL actual circles, TreVeyon Henderson is running back 2 in this class. And to basically watch out for Washington to potentially go Amari Hampton or Henderson at 29 if either of them are available instead of going edge rusher. Really interesting. Stay tuned. Of course, I will be live streaming that first round by myself. I'll be with the Commanders Kings, Rio, Louie, and Ed, rounds 2 and 3 on day 2, and then I'll be back by myself, rounds 4 through 7 on day 3 on Saturday. So make sure you pull up, man. It's gonna be a fun time. Y'all know me, man. I live, breathe, sleep this stuff, man. I'm a general manager at heart. Literally the off season is more excited to me than the actual regular season. This is just what I do. Super duper general manager. Again, I'm watching guys from, especially in the state of Georgia, middle school, high school. We're talking recruiting and scouting. We're talking college. And then I'm watching the film, the All 22. I'm scouting, projecting into the NFL. I love that whole process from middle school, high school, college, NFL. I do this. So I'm saying all of that to say that even when the Commanders aren't drafting, I'm ready to talk about any and everybody that's going on in the draft, man. No matter the team, no matter the player, especially the first round, I'm going to be excited about every pick. I'm going to try to guess picks. I'm going to try to break down and analyze every pick. So don't even just pull up if you're on, even if you're a non-Commanders fan, you can pull up to the live stream because I'm going to be breaking down any and everything. It's going to be a Commander stream. I'm going to be hoping for some guys that I really like to fall to 29, but I'm excited about every pick. I'm just excited about the draft, man. I'm just one of those draft nerds, so make sure you pull up if you love the draft too, even if you're not a Commanders fan. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know if you about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I feel like I sped through that one like an infomercial at the end where they're trying to tell you the symptoms and they don't really want you to hear it. They're just trying to get through it because they legally have to, I'm saying? I'm trying to get to that pace, I'm saying? I've been working on it. I've been doing my thing. By the way, man, make sure y'all leave a like on the way out. Of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything Adam Peters and Lance Newmark had to say about the draft. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of their points, any of my points. Let me know how you feel about the whole red flag situation. Would you take James Pierce if he's available at 29? How do you feel about TreVeyon Henderson at 29th overall rather than waiting to see if you can get him at 61st or sometime in the second round if you trade back and, going running back instead of edge rusher in the first round? Even if a guy like Donovan Ezraku was there or James Pierce or something. Let me know how you feel about all of that, man. Or how do you feel about us potentially trading with the Eagles again? Or are you one of those Commanders fans that's just strongly against that? Or are you cool with it and you're open to anything as long as it's the right move and it makes us a better team? Either way, let me know. I appreciate all of that. Let me know in the comment section. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.